Update. Am I the a-hole for suggesting to my wife that we kick out our daughter and son-in-law? Original post. So I, 55 male, have a daughter, 27 female, and she has a fiance, 26 male, and they both live with us. My wife, 54 female, and I have always made it very clear to our children growing up that they were always welcome to come home and live with us if anything happened. And my daughter and her fiance had really had a hard time finding a place to live after graduating, so we arranged for her to come stay with us. Her fiance has absolutely no family, and we absolutely adore him here, so we invited him to live with us too. That was 2.5 years ago. They had one interview with an apartment last year. That turned them down. But they haven't made so much of an effort to move out. In fact, they're kind of freeloading and not moving anywhere in life. Our daughter really wants to do art, so she designs tattoos and sells some of her designs to a local shop, but that doesn't make a whole lot. Then her son-in-law really wants to be a movie editor, and he works part-time for a production company. They both really only make enough to cover their own expenses, health insurance, car payments, cell phone, etc. And they live here rent-free and don't seem to be doing much with their lives. They do some work, but they spend most of their time sleeping, having sex, and going out together to the movie theater. When I tried to bring this to my wife and suggest we kick them out or push them to get actually decent paying jobs, she was appalled and asked what was wrong with me. She told me that she is our child and he is her future son-in-law and his family too. And she said she couldn't believe I'd even suggest that. I told her I thought I was being perfectly reasonable since they aren't doing shit for themselves right now, and I don't want to enable them pissing away their lives. She told me I was acting like an ass, and as far as she's concerned, they're doing just fine because they're doing what they love for work while being surrounded by supportive and loving family members. Then added a well mostly at the end. I said I felt that we should end the conversation and we moved on with what we were doing. Maybe it wasn't nice of me to do that, but it seriously annoys me to see my daughter wasting away at her potential while my other kids are going on to big things. Hell, her sister 4 years younger than her is in Australia right now. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I feel I should clarify something. I think it's safe to say that everyone in the situation knows that they're freeloading. My wife no doubt knows it and is ignoring it, but both of the kids no doubt know it too. They don't let us pay a single cent of any of their expenses beyond the living situation. They even pay for all their own food, toothpaste, shampoo, and soap, and they take care of every single personal expense they have. I've also heard conversations my daughter and my sister-in-law has had with my wife, and they absolutely know they're running in place in life. Also, one last thing I want to clarify is that they both have a theater subscription that's like $20 a month each for unlimited movies at a nearby movie theater, so it's not like they're irresponsible spending money willy-nilly on movies all the time. My opinion is that they need to be responsible adults, and you should just crack the whip, so to speak, and start charging them rent and for food and all that stuff if they're not willing to move out. But definitely, there needs to be a conversation had with your daughter and son-in-law, potential son-in-law, I should say. Best of luck to you, OP. Now for the comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, since wife is against kicking them out, time for the rent and food conversation. They may be pursuing their dreams, but need to be responsible adults. Something you can do if you can afford it, any money they pay you, put in an account for them, but don't tell them about it. Gift it when they are finally out and responsible. Oh wow, I like that idea. We're pretty well off, so it's not like we need them to chip in, so that would work. Not the a-hole. I'll bet there are a lot of resources on how to gently push young adults out of the house home to be found online, because tons of posts on this appear each week. You need a timeline, perhaps a year, with quarterly milestones involving job research, job applications, housing research, savings and contributions to the household, chores, errands. Your wife is frankly delusional if she thinks her 27-year-old daughter is doing enough adulting by occasionally selling some drawings for $50 a pop. I wouldn't advise calling your wife delusional, of course. I'd advise booking a session with a family counselor and talking about the situation in that forum. I can pretty much guarantee that the counselor will agree that the 27 and 26-year-old couple is taking advantage of your generosity to delay having to become self-sufficient. Of course, the housing market sucks out there, but these two aren't even trying to find work to save money to move out. Try to get on the same page with your wife regarding a plan, then bring in this insufficiently motivated couple to lay it out for them. Counseling might seem extreme, but if you can't get your wife to stop thinking like a mother hen with fluffy, yellow baby chicks, the next thing you know, you'll have a couple of new babies added to your full household, and you'll be hearing about how their parents couldn't possibly afford a 2-bedroom apartment, pay for childcare, etc., etc. Not the a-hole, but a-hole for comparing your kids, IMO. Don't compare them, just say you want better for them. I think you should just ask them what's next. I could be wrong, but you don't need your wife's approval to address the situation this way. Ask your daughter, is she gonna do an apprenticeship to become a tattoo artist, and ask the fiance what's next for him. But do it in a casual way over dinner. Don't say, do more or you need to leave. That will just create weird tension in the house, but you're not wrong at all. You're being a good parent by wanting more for them. Now for the updates. Update. My wife and I decided to sit them down for a conversation. We asked them what their short-term and medium-term goals were. Over the course of the conversation, my daughter started crying because apparently she thought she heard me call her a loser recently, which I absolutely did not mean to do, and they told us that they've been drowning in credit card debt. They have 5 cards and are $4,000 deep across them all, and they both have been going through some horrible depression. He's been on antidepressants for the most of the time that I've known him, and apparently she went back on hers recently, and my wife and I had no idea. They both said that they know that they're freeloading and are disappointments and burdens and are wasting their times and wasting their prime years. I honestly was not expecting that. It actually made me feel horrible. I even entertained the idea of kicking them out. But they told us that they do want to move out and get real jobs and start a family at some point. I told them both I was terribly sorry if I made them feel like I didn't think much of them or that they were losers, because I'm proud of her and love her so much, and that I was happy to have him as a son-in-law and have my daughter to be with someone who clearly respects and cherishes her. Over the past 2 weeks, they've been submitting applications, and today they both got jobs at AMC theaters nearly. They're working at the same location and are gonna be working together, and they have their first day on Thursday. They said once they get their finances in order, they'll figure out a monthly rent that they'll pay to us. My wife and I told them to please keep their money since it sounds like that they need it badly right now, but they insisted. I'll admit I think that they're being lazy and unmotivated at first, but I didn't realize that they were in so much pain. I'm super proud of them for taking the next step and moving towards their own independence, and hopefully they'll achieve that dream of moving out and having a family soon. So yeah, that's the update. Edit. They told us that they were trying to downplay it because they were afraid we'd judge them, and collectively between the two of them, the total is closer to $6,000 in credit card debt. However, I still think it's nothing that they can't come back from, and if they both consistently work and are smart with their finances, I'm sure that they'll be debt-free by the end of the summer. Story 2. I'm amazed by and also kind of afraid of my girlfriend plus update. Original post. I, 28 male, have been dating Jen, 27 female, for 2 years, and she's amazing. Kind, smart, funny, pretty, everything. She has a really warm and bubbly personality, smiles and laughs a lot. I say that she has R&F, resting nice face. She's also 5'5" and caged fury. Between her looks and approachable personality, she gets hit on by guys a lot. She also gets a lot of hate from women. I used to get really jealous when guys talked to her, and she would get mad at me for being jealous. Let me be clear, she's not particularly flirty. She doesn't initiate conversations, doesn't lead guys on. She's not looking for male attention. I'm 6'1" and somewhat intimidating built, so my go-to move is standing tall with my arms crossed and staring at the guy, then saying something like, "Is there an issue?" Instead of immediately jumping in when guys hit on her and causing an argument with her, I started to pay attention to how she handles unwanted attention. She's like a ninja, defleeting creeps and mean girls. She reads the situation and knows when to act nice, when to ignore them, when to be firm, and when to leave. I started to realize I don't need to be jealous and she can take care of herself. I tore up my knee over the summer. She basically moved in to help me during my surgery and rehab. She's been amazing, taking me things when I couldn't drive, making me food when I couldn't even stand, helping me do my PT. I'm still wearing a knee brace, but I'm getting there. She loves to dance, although I'm terrible. I love going with her because it makes her happy and she looks incredible when she's dancing. Since my injury, we haven't gone out much and we haven't gone dancing. I'm not able to dance more than a slow dance, so I got her friends to go out with us so she has someone to dance with. Pretty sure she likes dancing with her female friends more anyway. It was me, Jen, a couple, and 2 girls. The couple left pretty early. Watching her dance, I had a moment of clarity. All I could think of was how lucky I was that I'd be going home with the person I loved most in the world. I realized I wanted to marry her. 3 attractive women dancing are going to draw attention. I'm no hater, but it was funny watching guys try to hit on them and glad that it wasn't me anymore. This group of guys in particular weren't getting the hint. They started surrounding the girls and tried to dance behind them. Jen said something and pushed them aside. The girls came back to where I was sitting and the guys were glaring at us. Club closes and we're walking out towards my car. Turns out the guys weren't ready to let it go. A couple of the guys were insulting us, especially me for being a beta, that I'm not a real man. The irony that they are the guys I should have been protecting my girlfriend from was totally lost on them. They're getting louder and more aggressive. We tried to defuse the situation, but they're not letting up. A fight seemed inevitable. We're a block from the club, so I tell the girls we're going to head back to where the people waiting for Ubers were standing. They blocked our way, and I'm about ready to get in their faces, hoping I can intimidate my way out while the girls get away. I have one bad leg, and if someone shoves me, I'll probably fall down, plus there is only one of me. Jen suddenly releases a stream of insults and obscenities towards these guys and doesn't let up. I'm not sure she even stopped to take a breath. They were shocked, and so was I, by the genuine rage directed towards them. I've never seen her so angry. They're backing up while she's moving towards them screaming. She's driving them back towards the crowd while also creating a commotion. Told you she's a ninja. Some club goers start to come over and it's clear that they aren't on the guys' side. The guys are embarrassed because they're getting upbraided by 120 pound of white hot rage. This is the part where I should be embarrassed. My girlfriend, who is 8 inches shorter and 75 pounds lighter, kept me from getting my butt kicked. Honestly though, it was one of the most badass things that I've ever seen. Now for the update. Thank you to everyone that read and commented on my previous post. I was a nervous wreck writing it. I was trying to work up the courage to talk to her about our future and make sure we were on the same page. I knew she loves me and wants to be my wife, but she has a lot she wants to achieve, like going to grad school. I would have understood if she wanted to wait and to get engaged. It still would have hurt though. She was sitting on the couch reading a book and I was just looking at her and I was thinking, she's so amazing, just talk to her. Everything will be fine. She looked at me through her big dumb glasses and smiled. That was the final push I needed. Fortunately, we were both in the same place and ready to take the next step. We just went on a long weekend. We were walking to a little spot with a beautiful view for a picnic and I pretended to stumble and re-injure my knee. Pretty sure she didn't buy it, but she played along. She loved the ring and of course accepted. My previous post was a love appreciation letter about her. I also wrote one to her that was much different and more personal. I wrote it by hand to give it to her when I proposed. She cried when I proposed and again when she read the letter. I also showed her the post later that day. She liked it. I got a couple of little laughs and a loving look from her. She said I was exaggerating. Those guys were all talk. She's not a badass. Men don't flirt with her that often. Women are rarely mean to her, and she'd kick my ass if I said otherwise. She was joking about that last part, I hope. I'm sticking by what I wrote. She's a tough badass in my eyes. It really was enjoying writing both the post and the letter, so I started handwriting her little letters and poems. They're pretty bad, but she keeps each one. She even printed the post and saved that. She tells me she loves my writing because it makes her feel more connected when I express my feelings. I think that's her way of saying it's the thought that counts. I'm amazed and kind of afraid of my fiance. Story 3. My neighbors abandoned their daughter in another city and told her to find a way home herself. I can't believe it. I just got home from this and I'm so mad. My mom already told me that she will make sure Child Protection Services will be involved here. I'm a 22-year-old guy who lives in Europe. I'm still living with my parents as I don't see any reason to move out anytime soon. The longer I live there, the more money I can save and the more that I have when I move out. We live in a house with 4 other families. We are good friends with the neighbors next door, but my parents don't have the best relations with the neighbors upstairs. They have a 5-year-old daughter who I only talk to a few times. From what I know, she is in daycare after school so that someone takes care of her until her parents get her. However, it seems that today she went home by herself even though she wasn't allowed to do that because they were concerned that she might get kidnapped or anything. What an irony for that was about to happen next. To teach her a lesson, her parents drove her to another town, gave her a bit of money, and told her to find a way home if she is so capable of taking care of herself, and then they drove off. She didn't know about the bus and train timetables, nor did she know anything. She was just left there. Now, this gets to me. I just left my workplace to get home. I don't have a driver's license yet, even though I'm currently trying to get one. But for now, I still have to use the train. Luckily for her, my workplace was at the same town that her parents abandoned her at. She found her way to the train station but didn't know what to do next. She saw me when I was just ordering some food from a food stand at the train station and took my arm. I was surprised to see her there. I noticed that she had teary eyes. She had cried recently. I asked her what she was doing here and she told me everything and asked if she could stay with me. I agreed to let her stay with me and we drove home together. It was even more effed up to let her stay in this town in particular because in order to get home by train, you would have to switch trains twice on the way. There was just no way a little child like her could have ever have done that. When we got home, I told my mom and we confronted her neighbors about it and her mother opened the door. We yelled at her what she was thinking and she explained that this was a lesson her daughter needed to learn and explained why she did it. She didn't show any sign of guilt. Even after we reminded her that leaving her daughter alone in a strange town, shortly after complaining she might get herself kidnapped, is a bit hypocritical to say the least. So we will get CPS involved. She and her husband willingly put her daughter's life in danger. I feel bad for her daughter. She will be traumatized by this. Sure, she shouldn't have walked home by herself, but that was the rule that they went way too far with their punishment. What bothers me even more is the fact that I failed my practical test for my driver's license a few days ago. If I had passed, I wouldn't have been there to take her home, and she would have still been there by herself. Now for the advice. Even the best, most well-signposted, easily navigatable rail system is unintelligible to most adults, let alone a 5-year-old child. I've been on trains on 3 different continents. Can confirm. This is straight up abuse. The authorities, cops, and child services need to be involved. Holy F, this is just insane. My first solo train ride was at 7 or so, and that was my mother taking me to the direct train station, notifying the conductor and my grandma waiting for me at the other station. To leave a 5-year-old kid who probably can't even read, does not have any idea what timetables are. In the town 2 transfers, away is just totally unhinged. There was no way she could have made that by herself and was very lucky you were there. Yes, a kind stranger would also have helped her, but she could have met an unkind stranger. If I was in your position, I would have taken her to the police in that town and get the ball rolling immediately. This is so wrong in so many levels. That poor girl. Did she have a phone or any kind of tracking device so that the parents would at least be able to find her again once they were done with their BS lesson? Or were they just accepting that their daughter might be MIA? CPS and the police seem to be the only correct answer here. You hear about people pretending to do this in the woods, intending to come back after 10 minutes, but then the child is gone. Thank goodness she found you. We all know the multitude of horrible things that could have happened. When I was 10, taking a taxi by myself was a scary concept, let alone a train. These people are insane. Story 4. I'm married and I tested positive for STI. Both my husband and I were virgins when we met, and we're in a monogamous relationship. We just celebrated 4 years together. None of this makes sense. Truthfully, I don't believe he cheated. I know I probably sound like I'm in denial, but even my doctor seemed confused at the test result. A month ago, I had an IUD inserted. I had issues arise from it, so we decided to get it removed. Because of these issues, we didn't really have sex. We did 1 to 2 times with a condom in the week after the IUD was inserted, and once without a condom the night or 2 before my IUD was removed. At the time of the removal, I mentioned I thought I might have an infection like BV and was checked for it. Here's the thing, when I first got the IUD in, I tested negative for any infections or STIs in general. Now, when the IUD was removed, I tested positive for BV and an STI known as Mycoplasma genitalium. When he sent the swabs or samples or whatever you call it off to the lab, so I would have had to have contracted it during the time between me getting my IUD inserted and before its removal. Thing is, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for my husband to have cheated at all. I can't imagine that possibility realistically, but also logistically. He's been with me unless he was at work. We live 10 to 15 minutes away from his job, and he leaves 20 minutes before work, which gives him enough time to park, walk to his unit, and clock in. He arrives home on time every night and in uniform, leaving straight from work to home. I see his schedule and his pay stubs. I know those are the hours he's working. He gets 1 paid break where I bring him food or coffee, or we chat through the text the whole time essentially. Other than going to work, he's been home. Anytime we went out together. There's literally no time he could have even cheated if he did. The only other times he would have been alone was to pick up a curbside grocery order about 10 minutes away. 10 minutes back and he was back home within 25 to 30 minutes, or when he picked up 1 or 2 of her children from a relative's house and went straight there and straight back. My doctor said that he's sending another sample to the lab for testing and I'll get the results back in a few days. I was a bit caught off guard in the clinic and I did cry. But as I said, even my doctor said that he didn't believe the results at first and wanted to run them again because I tested negative at the IUD insertion. They just needed a new sample to test again since they couldn't reuse the one that they had. I told him that it had to be a mistake. It literally doesn't make any sense. When I got home, I was crying and my husband seemed concerned for me and asked what the doctor said. He just knew that I got a call to come in for some results. I was struggling to find the words and was just crying and hesitating before I could speak when he hugged me and held me tight and asked what had happened. That was actually when I was able to spit it out. I wanted his comfort so bad but couldn't stand it if he was a cheater. I said, please be completely honest with me. Did you cheat? He wasn't defensive. He wasn't angry. He didn't even hesitate. He just looked at me square in the eye and said, so confidently, no, I have never cheated. I told him about the STI result. He repeated that he didn't cheat, and as we talked more, he seemed genuinely confused. It's like he went through all the emotions I did when I got the news. He offered up his phone and said he has nothing to hide. He wanted to get tested right away to prove that he didn't spread it to me and reassured me that he didn't cheat. He even gave me his phone for me to share our locations with each other. I told him to wait for the next results before getting tested because I'm sure I'm just the one of those rare cases of a false positive. He didn't seem angry at me for asking. He was actually really confused as to how I could have gotten it, and it was literally us trying to give theories as to how I got a false positive for hours, but all of them felt like a stretch. We discussed the possibility of a false positive. We discussed how there must be a mistake. My doctor said it can only be contracted through sex, a swap sample or something. My husband works in healthcare and knows that they try as they might to prevent accidents from happening. Mistakes from human error are a thing. We keep telling ourselves it has to be some kind of human error. I know he didn't cheat. He couldn't have. I know I didn't cheat. He knows that. With both of us pointing out we've been together except when he's working. I know he couldn't have cheated. It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. I know people in love still cheat, but we literally haven't had any problems in our relationship. We very much love each other. I can't see him hurting me like this. I just don't know what to think. It all feels so unreal. We're both really confused, and I feel at a loss for how to go from here. What happens if I get another positive result? What happens if I don't? What's scary is thinking I'll get a positive but have no clue how it got there, especially if he gets tested negatively, because truthfully, I can't see logistically how he could have cheated when he's been home with me except for work. None of this makes sense. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.